Boston, on the night of April 18, 1775, is chilly and restless. In a darkened church, a man climbs a flight of rickety steps to the steeple. In each hand, a lamp made of iron and glass. Moments later, in the bell tower, the two lanterns glitter out a message of warning. The British are coming. Everyone knows the story, how Paul Revere saw those flickering lights and so began his historic ride to warn the American patriots. But wait, don't trust everything you hear. Those lanterns were not a message to Revere, they were a message from Revere. In 1775, American colonists were itching to send their British masters packing. Boston was the powder keg of revolutionary activity. England's King George III sent 3,000 of his crack troops called regulars to occupy the town and crush the rebellion. Both sides were definitely spoiling for a fight.
Everybody knew it was going to happen. Nobody knew when, nobody knew where, but they knew it was going to happen.
Then, on April 18th, the British began to muster troops for a march on Concord to seize weapons the rebels had stored there. The rebels quickly learned the troops planned to reach Concord by rowing across the Charles River and marching through the town of Lexington. Paul Revere was one of two men called upon to carry a warning to the people in those towns. Another experienced courier, named William Dawes, would ride by way of Boston Neck, the narrow strip of land connecting Boston to the mainland. Revere would take a different route, row across the Charles River, and then ride from the opposite shore. But as far as Revere was concerned, even two riders weren't enough to ensure that the message got out of Boston.
What if Revere couldn't get across the Charles? What if William Dawes, the other rider, never got out of Boston by the land route?
Just in case Revere was stopped or killed bringing his message across the river, he would also send a backup signal before stepping into the rowboat. The agreed-upon alarm would be lanterns hung in the North Church steeple. And so the lanterns were not a signal to Revere, but a message from Revere to his fellow rebels over the river in Charlestown. They were actually the most famous backup signal in history. One light if the British were coming by land, and two if they were coming by sea, or really by the Charles River.
So now the British are leaving, quote-unquote, by sea, so two lanterns need to be hung from the steeple of the Old North Church.
The lamps were common lanterns of the day, constructed out of sturdy iron that was coated with tin. Part of the plan was to have the lanterns prepared in advance for the big moment.
Got them ready. Then after dark, went into the church, rounded up their stuff, went up into the steeple and made the signal.
With the lanterns out of the way, Revere rode to Charlestown. Once there, he borrowed a fast horse and set off on his famous ride. The Minutemen gathered on the Lexington Village Green. And there, the first shot of the Revolution was fired. The rest, though, is history. And what about the lanterns themselves? The fate of one of these tin-coated iron lamps is unknown. But at the end of the war, the sexton of the North Church sold this lantern to a man from Concord. Then, in 1853, the lantern passed into the hands of a colorful local character named Cummings Davis, who was a tailor and a seller of newspapers, and also a collector. In fact, Davis was one of the first Americans who began buying and preserving items from early U.S. history. This lamp and its lost partner hold a place in American mythology that no other lantern can claim. Which is funny, because there's a good chance they were made in England and imported to the colonies in the 1760s. In 1886, Cummings Davis's collection was transferred to the Concord Antiquarian Society. Today, Paul Revere's lantern remains the centerpiece of the collection at the Concord Museum.